What is going on, IF Warriors? Today we're going to talk about a new fasting method, brand spanking, minty fresh, new, called dirty fasting. What is it? Is it comparable to intermittent fasting? Does it work? And is it right for you? We're gonna go ahead and tackle this question today. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and break it down in this video. Stay tuned. Okay, so what is dirty fasting? Dirty fasting is basically a parallel world where you could still get the physiological effects of intermittent fasting without actually doing intermittent fasting. It's a new fasting system designed for people who want to fast, but also ironically don't want to fast. Now, I'm not trying to joke on this fasting system. However, there is only one study, literally one human study that exists out there that we know of that actually tackles the premise of dirty fasting and if it works. And there's still a caveat to that one study that they have done. Now, quickly, just explaining dirty fasting so you know what it is. It is being able to consume food during your fasting periods. I know this seems weird. I know it seems like out of whack, but it's actually like you could consume, even if you were doing the 16-8, for example, you can consume up to 200 calories. So the basis of this, then the premise of this dirty fasting, and the reason it's called dirty fasting is because you're not fasting all the way through, but it is to ensure that your body's physiological fasted state remains intact, which means there's still ketone production, that there's also still your blood glucose levels are still low, that your insulin is still not spiked and it's still low. As long as you have these physiological similarities to full-blown fasting, you're essentially fasting without breaking it, but also getting the ability to eat on the side, if you like, little things, nibble here and there until you have to actually eat your food. Now, please take all of this with a grain of salt, because remember, there's only one human study that exists right now that looks at the premise of dirty fasting. Now, basically, a lot of people already did this without calling it dirty fasting. For example, people would consume things like bone broth during their fasting period, which unfortunately is a fast breaker. But they're claiming here, well, you can do this and it's not gonna do too much to you. So much so that it's basically like you're fasting anyways. Because one of the things that is beneficial about fasting is the lack of nutrients that come in during the times when you're fasting. Believe it or not, I know it sounds like, oh my God, malnourishment, malnutrition, but it is just an acute stage of malnutrition, which is actually beneficial if you do it in very small bursts. Obviously, if you do weeks upon weeks of malnutrition, is going to be incredibly bad for you. But if you still get your nutrients that day within that 24-hour span, that acute time frame of not getting it is actually helping you, is actually beneficial to you in terms of your body's physiological response to it. Obviously, bar any specific health issues that you may have in which intermittent fasting may affect it negatively. But other than that, if you are a normal body person, these small moments of lack of nutrition can actually really benefit you. Now, keep in mind that this is a theory. Right now, this sits at theory level and has barely any clinical research. Now, let's talk about the study that looks into this fasting system. Now, it's not to say that people haven't done it and stated that they've gotten good results from it. It's just that we also need the studies to back it up. Intermittent fasting is strong, it's powerful. We've had testimonials and anecdotes, but we also have studies. mountain of studies with intermittent fasting dating back to like 1970 and really ramping up in the early 2000s, around 2001, all the way up until now. We have thousands upon thousands of studies with intermittent fasting and meta-analysis and things of that nature that give us a better indication of how well it works when using that protocol. But this one study used a specific bar called fast bar, and they looked at their blood glucose level as compared to the groups who were just doing intermittent fasting and only consumed water. So it was a group that consumed the fast bar, which is about 200 calories, and those who consumed just water. What they did was they tested their blood glucose levels and ketone levels and noticed that those who consumed water, there were no differences between them and those that consumed the fast bar. But that's the key thing here. They consumed a bar called fast bar. Fast bar is a kind of ketogenic bar. It is high in fat grams, very low in protein, and very low in carbs. I believe it has only 6 net carbs, but about 17 grams of fats. So it's a ketogenic food, and it's only 200 calories. So it's low in calories overall. So the overall consumption of calories is only 200 during your fasting period that could last about 16 hours. But also, it doesn't spike your insulin because it's very low in carbs, only 6 net carbs. And I believe the carbs are from fiber, which is even better for you in terms of not spiking your insulin. So now, taking all of that into account, yes, that was a pretty successful individual study, just one study, but you have to have basically a ketogenic 200 calorie meal to kind of replicate that one study, which is an important factor, that it's one study. We still need more. This doesn't also apply to everything else. Like if you're gonna eat a protein bar, for example, or you're just gonna eat a regular chocolate bar, or anything else that's 150 calories. For example, a Coca-Cola, full-blown can of Coca-Cola is about 170 calories. That's under the 200 calorie limit, but that is definitely going to spike your insulin. So it is one of those things where I get it, is opening up the doors for people who want to do fasting but just can't visualize themselves not getting their morning drink or their broth or whatever it is, and they need that. And because they need that, they've designed this new method of fasting. Now, you're probably going to get some fasting in there because 200 calories is not enough to hold you through. I mean, if you were to break it up between hours, it'll be like eating 50 calories an hour or even less leading up to your actual fast break, which I don't think anyone would do that. 200 calories is small enough that you're probably going to eat it in one shot, which means you're going to have some level of fasting integrated in there before you eat that thing again during your fasting time frame. So because the low calories there's going to be some level of fasting. Is it going to be a strict 16 hours? No, but there is some fasting in there. I advise you, if you want to use this system, can it work? Absolutely, because it's still calorie based as well. But I advise you to do it with caution, because whatever crutch you create will be a crutch that you need. Because your body will become used to it. For example, there are people that have to have coffee. But believe it or not, they only have to have coffee because they've already started drinking coffee. If you've never drank coffee before, or if you stopped drinking coffee for years, no matter what you're doing, no matter how energy deprived you are, or whatever it is, you never feel the need to need coffee. I don't drink coffee. I haven't drank coffee in over 14 years. I used to drink milk and coffee when I was younger. My mom used to make that. But after that, after I started going on my own, I didn't drink coffee at all. I completely stopped drinking it, and I never felt the need or urge to use it for energy. If you create a crutch, you will always use that crutch. Be careful with the crutches that you use or create. For example, if you create water as a crutch, It's not too bad because it doesn't break your fast, it doesn't add anything to you, it's just water and it hydrates you. But if you add food or 200 calories as a crutch, that could affect you and could create a slippery slope where at one point you're just doing calorie restriction and you're not doing intermittent fasting. But that is dirty fasting. That is the clinical information that we have so far on dirty fasting, just one human study, using a essentially ketogenic bar called the fast bar. We have nothing else so far in terms of research. Let me know what you guys think about that. Patreons will be pinned in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.